They were pouring concrete on my land like I didn't even exist. Not arguing, not checking, not even looking around to see if anyone might question it. Just building. The first thing that hit me wasn't the workers. It was the smell. Fresh asphalt, thick and heavy under the late afternoon sun, rising slowly off the ground like heat you could almost see. It settled in the back of my throat, dry and bitter, the kind of smell that doesn't belong in a place that's been untouched for years. Then came the sound. A hydraulic drill biting into the ground in steady, rhythmic bursts. Not random, not careless. Controlled. Intentional. Each udar driving down into the soil with enough force that I didn't just hear it. I felt it. Through my chest. Through the ground. Through something deeper than that. I stood at the edge of the property line, boots pressed into dry grass that hadn't been disturbed in years, and just watched. 6 men. Reflective vests. Moving with the kind of quiet coordination that only comes from routine. They weren't guessing. They weren't figuring things out. They already believed they were exactly where they were supposed to be. That was the first thing that didn't sit right. Because confidence like that doesn't come from uncertainty. It comes from permission, or the belief of it. Overnight, a fence had appeared. Temporary. Cheap. Metal stakes driven into the ground with orange mesh stretched tight between them. Not meant to last. Just meant to claim. And inside it, something permanent was already taking shape. Concrete poured into wooden frames. Edges squared off clean. White chalk lines marking out dimensions across the dirt like decisions that had already been made. Like this had all been approved long before I ever stepped foot back into town. I didn't say anything. I didn't move. I just stood there and watched. Because when something doesn't make sense, you don't interrupt it. You let it play out. You see who acts like they belong, and who doesn't even realize they don't. One of the workers wiped sweat from his forehead with the back of his glove and glanced in my direction. Just a quick look. Then he turned away, dismissed me instantly. Like I was background. Like I didn't matter. That was the first mistake. I stepped forward. Slow. Gravel shifted under my boots, crunching just loud. Enough to break the rhythm of the machines. No one said anything. Not yet. I reached the edge of the fence and paused for half a second, then ducked under the loose section of mesh. And the moment I crossed that line, everything changed. Not around me. Inside me. Because the ground under my feet wasn't just dirt anymore. It was mine. Every inch of it. Every patch of dry weeds. Every crack in the baked soil. Every place their machines were tearing into like they had the right. Hey. The voice snapped sharp behind me. Used to being heard. Used to being obeyed. I didn't turn right away. I let it sit there for a second, then slowly looked over my shoulder. White hard hat. Clipboard. Already irritated. Walking toward me with the kind of authority that doesn't ask questions first. You can't be in here, he said. Flat. Rehearsed. This is an active construction site. I turned fully this time. But I didn't look at him. I looked past him. At the concrete being poured. At the wooden frame set deep into the center of the lot. My lot. What exactly are you building? I asked. My voice stayed even. No edge. No urgency. That seemed to bother him more than anything else. He gave a short laugh. Dismissive. HOA community structure, he said. Pavilion. Maybe a small recreation area. He shrugged slightly. You know amenities. Amenities. The word hung there. Light. Casual. Like it explained everything. It didn't. Because this wasn't small. The footprint was too wide. The layout too structured. This wasn't a temporary add-on. This was something permanent. Something expensive. Something that didn't belong here. And who approved this? I asked. He shifted his weight, already losing patience. The association did. Just like that. Like the word itself should end the conversation. Look, he added. If you've got an issue, take it up with them. But you need to step outside the perimeter. I didn't move. Instead, I crouched down slowly and pressed my hand against the ground. Warm. Vibrating. Alive with movement that didn't belong there. I could feel the machines through the soil. A steady pulse. Like something artificial forcing its way into something that had been quiet for a long time. This land had been still. Undisturbed. Waiting. You sure about that? I said. He frowned. About what? I stood up, brushing the dirt from my palms slowly, deliberately. That you're building on the right land. For a moment, just a moment, he hesitated. Not visibly, but enough. His eyes flicked toward the foundation. Then back to me. Then, before he could answer, a car door shut. Sharp. Clean. Out of place. I turned. Black SUV. Polished. Reflecting the sunlight in a way that didn't belong next to dust, dirt, and rebar. The engine cut. The door opened. And she stepped out. Heels clicking against the pavement. Measured. Precise. Blonde hair pulled tight. Sunglasses hiding her eyes. Posture straight enough to suggest she didn't just belong here. She controlled it. She didn't look at me. Not at first. She looked at the construction. At the progress. At the shape of something being built under her authority. And she smiled. That was the second mistake. Then she saw me. Standing inside the fence. Inside something she thought she owned. And just like that, the smile disappeared. And who exactly are you supposed to be? She asked. Authority in every word. Not curiosity. Not confusion. Control. I held her gaze. Just a second longer than most people would. Long enough to see the assumption settle in her mind. I didn't belong. I was a problem. And problems, in her world, get removed. I glanced once more at the concrete. Still wet. Still forming into something that shouldn't exist. Then I looked back at her. That depends, I said quietly. I took one small step closer. Who told you this land was yours? She didn't answer right away. But I saw it. Not in her words. In the pause. In the way her fingers tightened slightly around the frame of her sunglasses. Just enough to break the perfect stillness she had walked in with. A small crack. Almost invisible. But real. I think you're confused, she said finally. Her voice stayed calm. Measured. But there was something underneath it now. A sharper edge. The kind that shows up when control starts to slip. Even just a little. This entire section falls under the jurisdiction of the Whitmore Estates Homeowners Association. Whitmore. The name landed heavier than it should have. Not because it meant anything to me, but because of the way she said it. Like it was enough. Like it explained everything. Behind her, the machines kept running. Concrete still pouring. Metal locking into place. Work continuing like the ground itself had already agreed with her version of reality. I let the silence stretch for a moment. Long enough to feel the weight of it. Then I nodded slightly. Jurisdiction, I repeated. Slow. Careful. I glanced down at the stakes in the ground. The bright string running between them. The lines that looked clean, until you actually knew what you were looking at. That's an interesting word. She tilted her head slightly. Studying me now. Really studying. Trying to place me somewhere inside her system. Resident. Contractor. Trespasser. Problem. And who exactly are you? She asked again. Sharper this time. Less patient. More direct. I could have answered. I could have ended everything right there. Name. Deed. Proof. Every machine on that site would have shut down within minutes. But that wasn't the point. Because people like her don't learn from being corrected. They learn from consequences. Just someone who knows this land better than you think, I said. Her lips pressed into a thin line. The confidence was still there, but now it had tension in it. Well, she said, someone who knows this land should also know this project was approved months ago. She gestured slightly toward the structure. Permits. Zoning. Everything cleared through proper channels. Proper channels. She stacked the words carefully. Like armor. Like something she had said enough times that she believed it completely. I didn't respond. Not yet. Instead, I looked past her. And that's when I saw it. A small metal sign near the edge of the foundation. Easy to miss. Half covered in dust. Permit notice. I walked toward it without asking. Behind me, I could hear the man in the hard hat starting to protest again, but it didn't matter. Not anymore. The numbers were there. Clear. Official. Convincing. Parcel ID. Lot designation. Coordinates. Everything exactly where it should have been, until you looked closer. I leaned in slightly. Let my eyes slow down. Line by line. Number by number. And there it was. Not obvious. Not loud. But wrong. Just enough. Buried in a place most people would never check. You might want to look at this, I said. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't need to. She hesitated. Only for a second. Then stepped closer. Her heels pressed into the dirt, leaving sharp impressions behind her. She read it. Once. Her expression didn't change. Then. She read it again. That was the moment. The second layer. The one where confidence starts to meet doubt. This matches the development plan, she said quickly. Too quickly. There's nothing incorrect here. But she didn't step back. Didn't disengage. Because once you see something, even if you don't fully understand it, you feel it. And she felt it. I straightened slowly. Then turned my attention back to the ground. To the boundary lines. The stakes. The layout. From a distance, it looked perfect, clean, intentional. But up close, it was off. Shifted. Just a few feet. Barely noticeable unless you knew exactly where the original line had been. Enough to take land, without making it obvious. Enough to pass, if no one questioned it. Funny thing about lines, I said quietly. I didn't look at her yet. They only matter. I paused. Let the words settle. If they're in the right place. When I finally turned back to her, the smile was gone. Completely. If you're implying something, she said, her voice lower now, you should be very careful. Careful. I almost smiled. Because from where I was standing, they were the ones standing on something unstable. Not physically. Legally. I took a small step back. Gave her space. Let her feel like she still had control of the moment. Around us, the energy had shifted. The drill had gone quiet. The workers had slowed. No one said anything, but everyone was watching. Waiting. You're right, I said. Calm. Even. I should be careful. Her shoulders eased slightly. Just a fraction. Like she thought the conversation was turning. Like she thought she had regained control. Too early. Because if those lines are wrong, I met her eyes. Held them. Then everything you're building here. I let the silence stretch one last time. Becomes a very expensive mistake. This time, she didn't answer. Didn't deflect. Didn't correct. She just stood there. And in that silence, everything shifted. She knew something wasn't right. She just didn't know how far it went. Yet, I looked past her one more time. At the foundation. The concrete already beginning to set. Hardening into something that wouldn't be easy to undo. Time mattered now. But not for me. For them. Because every second they kept building, they were committing. Deeper. Further. Into something they didn't understand. I turned. Walked back toward the fence. No rush. No explanation. No argument. I stepped over the loose edge of mesh and onto the grass again. Behind me, the machine started back up. Louder this time. Faster. Like they were trying to outpace something they couldn't see yet. I could feel her eyes on my back. Still trying to decide if I was just a problem or something worse. She still thought she was in control. That was the part that made this easy. I reached my truck. Opened the door. Then paused. Just for a second. I looked back at the land. At the structure. At the lines that had been shifted just enough to cause all of this. They had already poured the first layer. They had already committed. And they still had no idea what they had just stepped into. I didn't drive far before I pulled over. Not because I needed to. Because I knew I shouldn't keep moving. Not yet. The engine ticked softly as it cooled, the heat settling down into something quieter, more controlled. I sat there with my hands resting on the steering wheel, staring straight ahead, but not really seeing the road. I was replaying it. Every detail. The sign. The numbers. The way the lines were placed. Not randomly. Not carelessly. Too clean for that. Too intentional. That was the part that didn't sit right. Mistakes don't look like that. Mistakes are messy. This wasn't messy. This was precise. I reached into the glove compartment and pulled out the manila folder. Old. Worn at the edges. But everything inside it, exact. Organized. Untouched by assumption. I opened it slowly and spread the papers across the passenger seat. The faint smell of aged paper mixed with the asphalt still clinging to my clothes. Two different timelines. Same place. Different truths. Parcel 17B. Same number printed on their sign. Same designation. Same official language. But not the same land. I leaned closer. Compared line to line. Their boundary. Mine. Overlaying them in my head. Not matching. Not even close. Their version stopped short. Mine extended further. Far enough to cover the exact section they had just started building on. And more. I traced the line slowly with my finger. Not to check. To confirm. To feel it settle. They didn't just cross onto my land. They designed around it. That realization didn't come all at once. It came in layers. First, the mismatch. Then, the intent. Then, the scale. This wasn't a mistake. This was a system. Already committed. Money, labor, time. All poured into something they didn't own. I leaned back in the seat and exhaled slowly. Because systems like that don't stop easily. They don't pause. They don't question themselves. They keep going. Until something forces them to. I pulled out my phone. Scrolled. Stopped at a name I hadn't needed in years. Daniel Reeves. Land use attorney. The kind of man you don't call unless something already went too far. The line rang once. Twice. Then, it's been a while. Same voice. Calm. Controlled. Like nothing ever surprised him. That's one way to put it, I said. I paused for half a second. Not because I didn't know what to say, because I wanted to say it right. I've got a situation. Silence. Not hesitation. Focus. Go on. I laid it out. Clean. Direct. No extra words. Construction. HOA. Permit. Parcel mismatch. Boundary shift. No emotion. Just facts. Because facts are what matter in moments like this. When I finished, he didn't answer immediately. I could hear it. The quiet processing. The way someone like him takes information and turns it into structure. Do you still have the original survey? He asked. In front of me. And the title chain? Complete. A longer pause. Then, a slow exhale. They have a problem. No reaction. No surprise. Just certainty. I glanced out through the windshield. Back toward the direction of the site. That's what I thought. Don't engage them again, he said. Not yet. That word landed. Not yet. Let them continue. I frowned slightly. Not disagreement. Curiosity. Why? Another pause. Shorter this time. Because every hour they build increases their exposure. Exposure. That word shifted everything. Margaret talked about authority. Permits. Approval. He talked about consequences. Legal weight. What happens when something already built can't be undone without cost? I leaned back again. Let that sink in. They're not just building a structure, he continued. They're building liability. I said nothing. Because I understood. Fully. I'll pull county records, he added. Permits. Filings. If they filed under the wrong parcel. This escalates fast. How fast? I asked. I heard typing on his end. Precise. Measured. No wasted movement. Fast enough, he said, that they'll wish they stopped the moment you walked in. That line stayed with me. Not because it sounded dramatic. Because it was true. I allowed myself a small breath. Not relief. Not satisfaction. Clarity. Because this wasn't about arguing anymore. This wasn't about proving a point. This was about letting the system collapse under its own weight. I'll send everything, I said. Do that. A pause. Then, and Ethan, he hadn't asked my name. He didn't need to. Yes. Don't warn them again. The line went dead. I sat there for a moment longer. The world outside still moving. Cars passing. Wind shifting the dry grass. Everything normal. Except it wasn't. Not anymore. Something had changed. Not out there. In here. This wasn't confusion anymore. This wasn't reaction. This was direction. I gathered the documents carefully. Each page placed back exactly where it belonged. No rush. No hesitation. Because now, every piece mattered. I started the engine. Pulled back onto the road. I didn't head home. I headed somewhere else. Because I learned something a long time ago. You don't stop something like this by arguing. You don't stop it by raising your voice. You stop it by making sure every piece of paper tells the same story. And right now, theirs didn't. The county records office smelled like paper and time. The kind of place where nothing moves fast unless it absolutely has to. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead, washing everything in that flat, colorless tone that makes hours disappear without warning. I stepped inside and let the door close behind me. Quiet. Controlled. Ordered. The opposite of what I had just left. I walked up to the counter and waited. The clerk didn't look up immediately. He finished stamping a document first. Slow. Precise. Then glanced at me. I need parcel records, I said. 17B, full history. He studied me for a second, then nodded toward the terminals. Public access is over there. I took a seat, typed in the parcel number, and waited. Because this is where the truth lives. Not in noise. Not in motion. In records. The files loaded. Ownership history. Transfers. Zoning. Permits. Everything looked clean. Too clean. I scrolled. Slowly. Letting patterns form. Then I found it. A subdivision filing. Recent. Boundary adjustment. Small. Subtle. Easy to miss. I opened my folder. Placed my survey beside the screen. Lined them up. And there it was. The shift. Just under 8 feet. Precise. Intentional. Enough to cover the exact section they were building on. Enough to make it look legitimate. But not enough to make it real. I leaned closer. Scrolled down. Status. Pending. No final signature. No ratification. Which meant it didn't exist. Not legally. Not officially. Not at all. I leaned back slowly. And let that settle. They had built everything on something that wasn't real. I hit print. The machine came to life. Page after page sliding out. Each one a piece of what was about to happen next. When I returned to the counter, the clerk flipped through them, paused, right where I expected. He saw it. Didn't say it, but he saw it. I need these certified, I said. He nodded. Give me a minute. I waited, listening to the quiet rhythm of the room. Paper, printers, soft voices, normal sounds. But underneath it, everything was aligning. When he came back, the documents were stamped, sealed, official, untouchable. You might want to talk to zoning, he said. If construction's already started, they'll be interested. Interested. I nodded, took the documents, stepped outside. The air felt different, heavier, but clearer. I got back in the truck, set the folder down carefully, then dialed Daniel. He answered immediately. Tell me you found something. They filed a boundary adjustment, I said, but it's not finalized. They built anyway. A pause. Then, that's not just a problem. It's leverage. Leverage. That was the word. The one that changed everything. I started the engine. What's next? We make sure the right people see it. I pulled out of the lot, back onto the road, back toward everything they thought was permanent. They had no idea how fast that was about to change. I rested my hand on the folder. Solid. Certain. This wasn't about land anymore. It was about timing. And theirs was running out. The zoning office felt different the moment I stepped inside. Not quieter. Not slower. Just controlled. The kind of place where things don't need to be loud to matter. Where decisions don't get argued. They get documented. Filed. Enforced. The glass door closed softly behind me, sealing off the outside world in a way that made everything feel more contained. The air inside was cooler, still, carrying that faint scent of paper, toner, and something older, something procedural. A system. I walked up to the front desk and placed the folder down gently. Not dramatic, not rushed, just enough for it to be noticed. The receptionist looked up. Neutral expression. Practiced. The kind of face that has seen everything and reacts to nothing. Can I help you? I need to speak with someone about an active construction project, I said. I paused just long enough. Tied to an unratified boundary adjustment. That did it. Not visibly, but subtly. Her eyes shifted. Just a fraction. That kind of sentence doesn't get ignored. One moment, she said. She picked up the phone, spoke quietly, her tone still even, but faster now. I stood there, hands resting lightly on the counter, feeling the weight of the folder without opening it. No need yet. Timing matters. A few minutes later, a man stepped out from the back office. Mid-50s. Glasses sitting low on his nose. Already focused before he even spoke. You mentioned an active project? I nodded. Opened the folder. This time, slowly, letting the documents show themselves. Parcel 17B, I said. Construction already started. Boundary adjustment still pending. He didn't respond immediately. He read. First quickly, scanning. Then again, slower. More precise. His eyes narrowed slightly as he moved from page to page, cross-checking without saying a word. The room stayed quiet. No one interrupted. Because this kind of silence means something is being confirmed. Where is the site? He asked. I gave him the address. He turned immediately. No hesitation. I need the permit file, Whitmore Estates. Eastern section. A binder appeared from the back. Thick, structured, organized. He flipped through it. Stopped. Then compared it to my documents. Back and forth. Once. Twice. And that's when it shifted. Not dramatically. Not loudly. But enough. Confidence turned into precision. They filed this adjustment, he said, tapping the page. But it's still pending. He turned the binder slightly. Same line. Same status. Not approved. And construction has already started? Yes. Foundation was poured yesterday. That was the moment. He looked up fully this time. Not at the documents. At me. That shouldn't have been possible. I let the silence sit. Then answered. But it happened. He closed the binder slowly. Carefully. Like something had just been finalized in his mind. Do not contact them again. Same words Daniel used. Different weight. This goes through enforcement. Enforcement. No tone. No emotion. Just consequence. He picked up the phone and dialed without hesitation. I need inspection on site. Whitmore Estates. Eastern expansion. Pause. Yes. Immediate dispatch. Another pause. Today. He hung up. Turned back toward me. They'll be there shortly. Once confirmed. He let the sentence sit for a moment. All activity will be halted. Halted. Final. Not delayed. Not reviewed. Stopped. I nodded once. That was enough. You did the right thing bringing this in, he added. I closed the folder. Carefully. It's not early, I said. They just don't know it yet. He held my gaze for a second. Understood. Didn't respond. Didn't need to. I stepped outside. The air hit differently now. Heavier. Not with uncertainty. With inevitability. I walked back to my truck. No rush. Because now, this wasn't a situation anymore. It was a process. Already in motion. Already moving toward an outcome no one out there could stop. I sat down and placed the folder beside me. It felt lighter now. Not because anything changed, but because it had already done its job. I started the engine. Pulled away from the curb. Didn't go straight back. Didn't need to. Because this was never about confronting them directly. This was about letting the system catch up. And once it does, it doesn't miss. As I drove, I could picture it clearly. Inspectors pulling up. Walking through the fence. Looking at the lines. At the sign. At the structure. Someone pointing. Someone realizing. Someone saying it out loud, for the first time. The moment, everything shifts. Not physically. Legally. And once that shift happens, there's no going back. Somewhere behind me, they were still building. Still confident. Still moving like nothing had changed. But not for much longer. Because paperwork always catches up. And when it does, it doesn't argue. It doesn't warn. It simply stops everything.